a preponderance of evidence in the fact that they are minority, then you need to address that. And whoever's responsible for that has to be held accountable. And there's been rumors about demotions, and some of you consider it promotions, but it's not in the eyes of the community. And in some instances, some people have said that their pays have been cut. As you well know, in your school law conference that you just had in June, it tells you about their property right, and you cannot affect that property right. So you need to make sure that that isn't affected, because then that will come back to haunt this board, and you individually can be sued, as you well know. And also, in dealing with your community, I just ask that you listen to them. They're bringing you issues. They're putting you on notice that something is wrong. Something is wrong for this many people to come before you, because a number of people have come to tell them from their heart that there are problems. So I just want you to know this group is tenacious and resilient. And I know of them, it goes back to a Moldov suit that was filed against this school district. So they're not going to go away, I assure you of that. They may not be here at the board meetings, but they are compiling information as we speak. So just be on notice that they are concerns and you need to address them. Thank you.
Okay, we did have a suggestion about wanting to hear the translation. I'm open to that. We have a few minutes. So did you have that like recorded or?
No, this lady right here.
Were you
Actually, it's not a recording.
Oh, okay.
It's a transmission.
Oh,
Oh, he was,
Try to say it in
okay.
would you please?
wow.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
The principal thing that we concern as a community, as a Hispanic community, is because we know Mr. Bolaños long time ago, and we know how was working hard to have a good place in the district school. He was working so hard with our community, by hand, with our children. He knows the name of all the children. He recognizes everywhere. He's always working hard for us. Now is the time to support. But one thing that we concern too much, and this is the best point, is that we be concerned for his future. We know that he can be removed. He knows that nobody is necessary anywhere. But for us, he represents our culture, our costumbres, traditions. He know our family because he know how we think, how we act. He's important for us that somebody support us, our community, and we're thinking in his future that he's been working so hard for his life. And he needs to be sure that in the future he's going to be ready to retire with honor. We work to have a high level like you guys. We work so hard, but we need to be sure that everything is good for us in the future. Now he has a condition, but his mind condition is the same. He's the same. We're still there. Now he can run fast with his chair. He can move everywhere, but he's awesome. He represents Mexican people, his tradition, and he's our voice. And we are to raise his voice with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, typically we are not really allowed to make comments after people speak, but as a board, I do want you to know that we are listening. We do thank you. We realize that coming and speaking in front of all these people, and we thank you for coming because we understand when this community is hurting. I get it. I know you may not believe that, but I'm one person, and I'm sure everybody up here has been in a situation where they have been hurt or they have been mistreated. And I have been. And so we do hear you. And just so you know that the board policies are there so that we have processes already in place, and we will use those processes to the best of our ability to make sure that our children have equity and equality, and to make sure that our district is the best district in the state. So thank you again for coming. And with that, we're going to get on with the board meeting. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
You don't have to leave.
No.
The board
Stay
meeting
here the whole
is a
time.
little bit short.
And it's very entertaining.
We're going to make it entertaining. All right. I'm sorry, I've lost my spot. Okay, we have the approval of the minutes. They got a stamp. Do you want to go ahead and get us started? I said we're ready.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought we were moving on to approval of the minutes.
Yeah,
So,
but you have a line.
okay, so I do recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 14th, 2019.
Are there any corrections, deletions to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez and a second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. The consent agenda is up now.
And Mr. Getty, I do recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Is there any discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Sanchez and a Mr. Sanchez and a second made by Ms. Pittman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We get to our action items, are next on the agenda. We have Title III, Part A, EA, Consolidated Application.
All right, let me get over there. Make sure I get to the right one.
Mine froze too earlier.
So the Title III is related to the language acquisition, and it is the ESEA consolidated application for Title III, and I recommend approval of the consolidated app.
I took a mint. Is there any discussion? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Ms. Pittman and a second made by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. 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 Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. IDEA B Basic and Preschool Application, 2019-2020.
So the IDEA B basic preschool application is related to special services and our 3- and 4-year-old programs. If you have any questions, Ms. Bruns is here, also Ms. Lawson can answer any questions, but I do recommend approval of the IDEA-B basic and preschool application for 2019-2020.
Can you give us some meat and potatoes on it?
Essentially, it just provides the funding to support related service, to give children any additional Tier 3 through special education. I guess I could use the microphone. It's what pays for the programming for special education that's above and beyond our normal programming. And so that's all of your, it's not special ed teachers, operational pays for that, but anything above, your IEP specialists, related service providers, any other curriculum things that are needed for their program that is specific to their IEP, developed by their IEP team. It's the very above and beyond expenses for educating students with special needs. And the preschool application is for developmentally delayed students who come in that are transitioned from Part C providers in the community to Part B, which will be us, which supports Parkview for our students with special needs at Parkview.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? All right, then may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Ms. Pittman and a second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. 2019-2020 addenda schedule.
So the addenda schedule is basically the stipends, coaching stipends, stipends for extra duties, all of those things. We've cleaned that up a little bit because we had some weird numbers on there, like, $326.23. So we've cleaned some of that up. We actually have raised many of the coaching stipends. Much of this has not been addressed since the early 2000s. And so we tried to adjust those to a level where we could remain competitive in attracting quality coaching staff to our ranks and to continue to grow those programs.
Cool.
I will note that the stipends that relate specifically to our operational staff, such as, custodial or maintenance, things like that, we have not addressed those yet because we are currently in negotiations. And so we wanted to wait until after negotiations were completed before we address those.
Thank you for the
Let
light.
there be light, yeah.
Is there any other discussion or questions? All right, if not, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
You, James. So, second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Pittman, a second made by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We have our second reading of the 2018-2019 PPE policy.
So this is the policy for our per pupil expenditure. It's one of the things required for meeting the requirements from the Every Student Succeeds Act. And it basically sets forth the manner in which we will report per pupil expenditure in our operations budget.
I have a question. Why are we voting on 1819 instead of 1920?
President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board. So this is the current fiscal year, 18-19. In order to have this void audit finding and reporting will start next year in December. But that reporting will be based on 18-19.
Okay.
And so you have to have this policy in place to determine how you're going to allocate your central costs.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, may I have a motion to approve? I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second made by Ms. Pittman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We have Open Meetings Act, and I forgot, 2919. 1920. That's right, 1920. I'm sorry.
So the Open Meetings Act resolution is a requirement where we need to make sure that we notify the public that we're always going to conduct the business of this district in open meeting, except in the situations that are accounted for by law. It also sets the meeting dates for board meetings in the upcoming calendar year. And I would recommend approval of the Open Meeting Act resolution.
All right, is there any discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez with a second made by Ms. Pittman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right, we have the student transportation contracts, Hammond and Pollard, fiscal year
Hammond and
19.
Pollard?
Did I say Hammond and Pollard?
They better not be their bus drivers.
Hamel and Pollard.
Yes. A little Freudian slip there, I guess.
It's
So, yeah.
it's the rhyme thing.
So these are the contracts from both of our transportation providers. We have worked very diligently with them this year. I want to say, thank you to Chris Tweed and Mr. Cole for negotiating these contracts with them, accounting for some changes that we have asked for, some upgrades in service for various things. And so they've been very responsive, and just want to appreciate, our people for what they've done, and then they're also being flexible and willing to work with us.
Cool.
And so I do recommend approval of the student transportation contracts with both Hamel and Pollard for the 1920 school year.
Interestingly enough, somebody caught me today and asked a question. He is a bus driver, and asked a question about, and I told him I would ask this question, and I really am now, I'm something about if somebody behaves badly on the bus, that the bus company is saying they're not filling out some form that, and he's worried that means that there's not going to be any discipline for our children on the buses. I don't know what he's talking about.
I
'cause
don't
can't
know
remember.
either, because we have a process where they do a bus referral,
Okay.
and then the principal of that school takes care of that disciplinary action.
Okay. He
So-
just said he'd heard that it was going away, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
no. They
that
still
sounds
have
very
to behave
strange.
on the bus.
okay, good, good. Well, I said I would ask it, and I did.
And that's a thankless job, being a
I-
bus driver. It really is, and it's a tough job, and so we're gonna support them every way we can,
Good.
so.
Anything else?
Mr. Tweed, any changes we need to be aware of on that? Big rocks, nothing?
Watch out for him.
Right.
And watch out for the big rocks.
Yeah.
Watch out for the
All right.
buses.
Do we have a motion to approve then?
So moved.
I have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Sanchez with the motion and Ms. Pittman with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Activity transportation contracts, Hamel and Pollard.
Well
For
done,
1920. Thank
well
you.
done. Yes, and so, one of the things that, they did purchase another activity bus, and, because we've really run into problems in spring sports. Because we've got track kids going everywhere from 2 different schools, and we've got middle school soccer, and we've got baseball and softball and tennis and golf, and so it's really hard. And so they did purchase another activity bus for those purposes, and are actually even working with us to train up some of our coaches to be CDL drivers, and to be able to do activity trips in their off seasons. And so so that we always have drivers available to be able to transport our kids, to get them to where they need to go in a safe way. And so I do recommend approval of the activity transportation contracts with both Hamel and Pollard for 1920.
Is there any discussion? All right, then may I have a motion?
So move.
All right, I have a motion made by Ms. Pittman. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kirk.
There you
Yay, Ms. Kirk. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Bid number 1909, recommendation. I almost said hashtag. I did.
Hashtag, yeah, there we
Hashtag
go.
1909.
So this is a bid received to purchase food from a variety of vendors for our cafeteria nutritional services. And I do recommend approval of bid number 19-09 for food vendors.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Okay, so what is that gonna do with, I got a question. So how's that gonna affect the food service down the line? Are we still doing the same food service and have the same vendors as we've had in the past?
Chris,
Yeah.
you want to?
Or are we going outside to other vendors?
President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board. So we do this bid annually. We do all three of these bids annually. And
Can you
Your
speak up a
mic
little?
up, please, so Ms.
Yeah.
Kirk can hear you.
Sorry. We do this bid annually, and we always have the same recurring vendors come back every year. There can be adjustments to who gets specifically which items every year, but we do, I think, up to 99% maintain the same vendors from year to year.
And that's what's in this current
Yes.
bid? And so we're using pretty much a lot of our local vendors?
For food, if I can bring up Tracy Wells, who's in the student.
Thank you.
So for our food bid, we do Benny Keith, Labatt, Shamrock, Cisco, El Charo, National Food Group. They are the places that will deliver to us. Produce is more of our local
Farmers?
farmers and things like that are here in town. El Charo is local, so we try to use them as best we can. But it comes down to, can they provide the items we need?
And typically, that's what it comes down to, is can they produce sufficient to meet the bid? A lot of times, they won't even participate in the bid process. But where we do get them to, most particularly, is on the fresh fruit side, the melons, but it's a seasonal type thing. And so, one, you've got to be able to produce the amount to feed all of our students, and two, based on the season and the crop that they plant, because that changes from year to year as well. So we always put it out there, and we're very strong supporters of our local farmers and agricultural producers, and the state is as well. So we work well with them, and I think if you talk to any of our farmers, they'd be very pleased with the business they do with the district.
And what was your title?
Tracy Wells, I'm with the Food Service Administration.
That's pretty much it.
That's it?
And kudos to Tracy. She works very, very hard, and to Mr. Tweed as well on these three bids that you're looking at here in front of you for food, non-food, and produce. They work as a team. Of course, vendors and bid processes can be a little contentious at times, but with their team and their group, very outstanding work, and they've been doing this for a long time in the community. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just so you guys know it, I don't think the attachment's popping up, so unless we have it printed, we don't have it in front of us tonight.
Okay.
I just realized that. I haven't been going through the action items, but just so you don't
I appreciate it.
say that again.
Appreciate it.
So, with that, there's no more discussion. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez, a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Bid number 1910, recommendation.
And this is the non-food bid, and so I'll just go ahead and read the following vendors. Ben K. Keith, Labatt,
Bat.
Shamrock, Cisco, Star Janitorial, Surf Pack, and Econ OPAC are the vendors that have been approved on this bid recommendation. And I recommend approval of bid number 19-10 for non-food vendors.
Any discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second made by Ms. Pittman. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have bid number 1911, recommendation.
And this is the produce vendors, and those, if I can get my page to turn. Those vendors, again, are Labatt, Shamrock, Cisco, and Segovia. And so I do recommend approval of bid number 19-11 for produce vendors.
President Davis, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board, we just wanted to add that the local vendors we renewed local vendors who were awarded last year for this year. So though they were not just read by Superintendent McElroy, we do have awards to Gray Farms and to Nichols.
MA Sons and Nickel Farm.
Oh, okay.
You said Graves Farm?
Yes.
Graves Farms.
Okay.
Can we,
Yes, and we do the renewal so that it just makes the process easier for them, that they don't have to renew every year.
Oh, okay.
So who are the local vendors again? It was Graves Farms?
Graves Farms, MA Sons, Nichols, anything for us is local, is within our state, as the state
Mexico.
defines it. So we do, we have put out for a grant this year for what we do every year for our local produce. And so we are getting involved with more local farmers throughout the district, throughout the state, that they'll be delivering to us. And we're working with the farm to school for that.
Very cool.
It's a great program, Farm to
That's good.
School.
Okay. Thank you. That's valuable information. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, if not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez with a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. It is now time for reports. Dr. McElroy will start us off.
I won the golf tournament today, just so you know. No, just, just saying. I had great partners, but we did have a great, Mona, Ms. Kirk, got with the retired administrators, and we reinstated the annual retired administrators and current administrators golf tournament. It was a great time of just being able to laugh and have a good time and make fun of one another in the best spirit of things. But to just, just to kind of celebrate the fact that we've had a good year. And so I want to say thank you to Ms. Kirk and Billy Carlisle and Ron Tidmore, the retired administrators who really pushed for this. And so really excited about getting that going again. I think we all had a pretty good time. We are in the process of finishing up interviews for a lot of administrative positions. We have lots of interviewing going on around the district for teaching positions and getting those filled with quality individuals. And going to continue that work throughout the summer. Our goal is that we have a certified teacher in every single classroom. That's always our goal, but with renewed dedication to that. We are still recruiting far and wide, wherever we're shaking the bushes and trying I'm more than happy to poach people from other districts. That doesn't hurt my feelings a bit. So, and unfortunately, they get stolen from us too. So, good people are, they're always sought after. And so, anyway, so working very diligently on that. We have received, working with a group called Bedrock Partners, we have received a $200,000 grant from the Daniels Foundation to help us shore up, fill in gaps, strengthen all of our curriculum, getting it consistent, getting our people trained, well trained, because it's one thing to provide a curriculum to somebody, but if they don't know how to use it, what good is it? And so I'm really excited about this opportunity. The Daniels Foundation actually approached Bedrock about writing this grant, and they wanted to try to do sort of a district-wide implementation around some of the tenets of turnaround schools. And Bedrock came to us and said, we know your district has had a lot of training in this area. We know your administrators have been well-trained. We would like to partner with Roswell Schools in this endeavor. And so we did write the grant and were awarded $200,000 for 1 year. They expect that to extend to a second year so that we can continue to build that. What this opportunity gives is it actually helps our teachers really have a firm foundation in their content area, what the expectations are. It also helps our administrators because, you know, when I was an administrator, when I was a teacher, I taught English and peer counseling and looking at Ralph, you know. But when I became an administrator, the two departments that I had to evaluate were social studies and math. Well, you know, I'd go sit in a calculus classroom and they might as well have been speaking Greek. I mean, you know, it was not something familiar to me. And so what this does for our administrators is it gives them exactly what the look-fors are when the teacher's teaching in this particular area. So we have our administrators then becoming instructional leaders, the kind of instructional leaders that we need them to be, because now they really have a tool that is useful to them. And so really looking forward to that partnership, and then getting our assessment strategy better aligned with that so that we know we're testing what we're teaching, and really have a measure of whether or not our curriculum is what it's supposed to be. Do we have the quantity and the quality of resources available to our teachers to make sure the kids get the curriculum, that they learn it. And so really excited about the opportunity for this work. And so and then we have law conference, just wanted to remind y'all about that starting this weekend. And expect to have quite a few of our administrators are going to be attending that with y'all as well. And so looking forward to that, and that's all I have right this minute.
All right. Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Board President Getty, members of the board. Really, where we're at this point in the year, this is our wildest, craziest time of the year as far as budget and finance goes, and equally operations. We've got a few challenges ahead of us. Of course, we're all saddened by the loss of Mr. Graham, and that's going to be a very challenging task to bring on board somebody here in the near to intermediate future. To make sure that our food service operations continue the way they have. And I'll just tell you, it's been outstanding for years and years. And you really don't know what you've got until it's gone. It's one of those things where it's not only heartbreaking, but you're missing a true talent. Again, kudos to Tracy Wells and the staff. Kelly over at Goddard as well. They've picked up, and I've been going over there in the mornings and checking on both Roswell High and Goddard, and they're just clicking right along. The big task is always scheduling and personnel and turnover and those types of things, but producing a quality product. I think the nice thing when you have some a stable team is that they've learned from the best in Mr. Graham. And so he's taught them those things, not only how to comply with the federal regulations that we have to comply with, which can be a little crazy at times, especially when you're trying to feed 10,000 students. And I'll tell you, everybody's a critic when it comes to food, particularly school food. Always has been. I can remember when I was a kid, I was a critic of the school food. But it's quite the task to get 10,000 students fed every day on a consistent basis. And of course,
Twice a day.
Twice a day,
Twice a
yes, breakfast and lunch. And also in the summer, we're feeding kids in the summer months. You're going to see our trucks out at the parks and at various locations providing free meals to our students, discounted meals to adults. Again, major kudos to Mr. Graham and his staff, and moving forward, we'll try and keep that continuity of service oriented. And the other thing I just need to brag on with food services is very rarely, when you look out across New Mexico, do you see a self-sustaining food service operation. Meaning you see a lot of them go to contractors because they can't sustain it. They have to support it with operational funds. What are operational funds for? Your day-to-day operations, your teachers in the classroom. And so to not have to divert those funds to food services is a huge deal. So just kind of an update on that. We're looking very closely at it. We've got 2 applicants at this point, and we need to try and expand that pool. I'll also tell you that in business and finance for the district, we've lost some folks to retirement. Of course, at the worst time of year, when budgets are due and when everything is backed up because you had a 60-day session and a new administration from the governor's level, and of course a lot of turnover at PED, Public Education Department. So we are hiring an accounts payable position. The good news is we had 38 applicants, and that's huge. That's a really nice pool for that position, and we look at it as an opportunity. This is our NFL draft. This is where we're improving, upgrading, and building for the future for the next 10 years. We also had an IT specialist, which that's a very big deal when you're trying to roll over your fiscal year and start your new fiscal year. There's a lot of components to a district this size, and to hand punch and key punch that, we're not built for that. We don't have the staff for that, and we don't, quite frankly, want to be built that way. We want to be efficient. And so those are some of our challenges, and what we're doing now is we're cleaning up accounts, making sure that we're not off by a penny in any line item account when we get to year end, to avoid costly audit findings that increase interest rates when we're going out for bonds and trying to do school construction. You know that our department has sought to keep those audit findings out of here and at a minimum at almost all costs. Of course, if we make it, we own it. But we don't want to make it. And so it's a big deal for us. We know that compliance in New Mexico is now a dirty word. We understand that. But we still need to keep the train on the tracks and keep a clean audit for our taxpayers, for our community. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Talent Management Personnel Report.
President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board, you have your monthly personnel action items. It pretty light up through the 4th of June. Next month, you could have about 3 pages of, as we process. That's kind of where we're at right now as we're getting new hires in, processing. They're just not into the system yet because obviously the contract hasn't started, but so look for that next month to be about 2 or 3 pages.
Excellent.
So we're looking good is what you're telling me. You're looking positive.
Looking positive.
All right, and last but not least, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services.
Mr. President, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board, we are extraordinarily busy right now. While people are off, we are not. We've got several trainings underway, and I am so grateful to Medea and the rest of the team, from the directors and academic services, for getting Learning Stream up and going, which is a new platform for teachers to register for trainings. It's actually been quite nice, and it's self-sustaining in that we can do the surveys and we can print out certificates. It's pretty cool. We're kind of learning as we go, but it's nice. We've got Next Gen Science from PED. They've come down to actually do the training here at our sites, which is huge. We're training over 100 people. We've got K-12 Champs that is ongoing right now. And I think it's really important to kind of recognize some of the directors and the work that they've done. We've been asked to present at several conferences that are upcoming between now and August, one of which is the Circle Grant, which is our Striving Readers. It's going to be an institute in August, excuse me. And they are very interested in what we are developing here at Roswell, so they've asked us to come be a part of that conference. And each and every one of the directors has taken a part in the Striving Readers enhancements to the grant that was originally submitted last year. So it's a pretty big deal, and I'm very proud of our accomplishments there. As far as, we've also been asked to present at the MLSS, which is also part of an institute in August, on what we are shaping in Roswell. They're interested in what we're doing, and they gave us some recognition. Gabe Baca, who does Title I at PED, is wanting to highlight the work that we're doing. Summer school is underway for secondary, and it's at Roswell High right now, and in addition to the summer acceleration, the A2SI, and we've got over 400 students who have participated this year, which is far exceeded what we've had in the past. And as far as the acceleration students, we have not quite 60, is that correct, Mr. Barra? About 60 in the acceleration, not quite 70? So once parents heard about this, they've asked, and so they're able to take higher level math once they come back and come into the fall. So we're very excited about that. What's different with this summer school is that we have a Friday enrichment experience. And last Friday, they built roller coasters. It was one of the coolest things I've seen. And so thank you to Kristen Salyards, who spent hours preparing for those activities. It was amazing to see. We are currently planning for new teacher orientation and for the admin academy, and that's with, again, some of the work of the directors. And above all, we are hiring like crazy for teachers and beating the bushes to make sure that we are finding every person that we can with the right certification for the right job. Did I miss anything, guys? I think there's so much going on.
Okay, thanks. Now we will come to board communication and committee reports. So I'm just going to go right down the list here. I don't know who did that, but I'll go first, and then Mr. Edwards, you get to end.
Sure.
All right, unless you want to start.
No, go ahead.
All right. I do. First of all, I want to say this week is the law conference. We get to go up and hear a bunch of lawyers tell us what we do wrong. It's a lot of fun, well, it is actually a lot of fun. I like one of those things. I do learn a lot. But I don't want to take too much of your time with what I'm going to say. Anybody in here know who John Maxwell is? Mm-hmm. Raise your hand. You've read his books, heard him talk. I am a huge fan of John C. Maxwell. I love his books. I listen every week to Minutes with Maxwell, and I've learned a lot about leadership from him. In many ways, I feel like John Maxwell and me see the world very similarly. One of my favorite statements he makes about leadership is this: when you stop loving people, you need to stop leading them. And I know in light of some of the recent changes and a lot of recent concerns, and again, I do want to thank everybody for coming tonight and what you said, I think this statement holds a lot of weight. You see, there's not one person that is involved in the Roswell Independent School District that doesn't lead. Every single one of our staff, employees, everybody leads. We have parents that lead, we have students that lead. Everybody leads, which if the statement, if you stop loving people, you need to stop leading people, is true, and I believe it is, then I think it's vitally important that we learn and have a culture of love in our district. I don't know what that looks like to you. I don't think that means every time I see somebody, I'm going to go up and give them a big old kiss and a hug. My wife would be upset. But what I'm referring to is the fact that we treat people with a level of dignity, respect, and we care for people. And that goes both ways. It comes from the top down, and it comes from the bottom up. When I was in high school, we had a custodian, and it seems to me odd, but many custodians are like this. They're like the coolest guys on campus. And in high school, we had one of those guys. It was like the Disney character, He lived in a closet, we all thought, and then he'd come out and like dance in the cafeteria. And we thought, this is the coolest guy ever. And I remember one time I'm walking, and I lived in Oregon. So in Oregon in the winter, we had this wonderful thing called freezing rain. And what that meant was everything looked wet, but it was really slick. And I remember walking across there one time, and of course we're all having fun because we're guys. So we're like, woos. And I watched as he came out, and he's sitting there with 3 bags of the salt melt stuff or whatever, and he's putting it on the thing, and he looks at all of us, and of course he said something like, you're going to break your heads. And none of us did, but what I remember him doing is he put that all out. And then as girls were coming out, we had a cafeteria for the freshmen and sophomores and a cafeteria for the seniors. But of course, the freshmen and sophomores had classes in this building too. So we'd have to run to lunch because, well, that's how far it was away. And we'd have to come out and go to class. And on this particular day, it was all frozen over. We still had school. And we're out there messing around, and out come a bunch of other people. A lot of them were girls. And I remember him yelling, he's like, I salted right there. And he's like trying to run to get the cones. He loved the kids. He loved them. And he would do anything for them. I know for a fact many things that he did. And so I think when I think about our community, Roswell, I think one of the things we struggle with in Roswell is we are a small community. When I first moved here, I haven't lived here for very long. I've lived here 16 years. And that's not very long. Many people have lived here far longer than I have. I'm a transplant. When I first moved here, my wife's aunt said to us, Roswell is a town of 40,000 that feels like 1,500. And I went, that's weird. 16 years later, I understand it. And so when changes happen, it hurts people. So I'm not making judgments. I'm not saying anything. Anybody did anything that wasn't in what they're allowed to do. I'm just saying that from the bottom up and from the top down, I think we ought to love each other. I think we ought to be a community that looks at each other and says, we're excited. Mr. Edwards does a great thing with football. And that's a Herculean task to show love in a situation like that. I've only heard the stories about how parents are in that. We have baseball communities here where we see people, and the thing is nobody in our community is separated. We don't live a world where I go to the baseball game and I don't see somebody I know. I go to Zen and I see people I know. So I have to be nice. But there's a reason for that, and it's because, and now I'm going to get a little preachy. I already have been, but I'm going to get a little preachy. Because there's a parable about a son in the Bible who takes his whole inheritance and he runs off and he spends it and he ruins his life, ruins it. He's eating pig slop, and he has a rich father. And he does everything wrong. And I don't know how long it was, but he goes back home. And he says, I'm going to go back home, and at least I can work in the servants' quarters of my father's house. There I won't be eating pig slop. And the story says as he's walking down the road, the father sees him from a long ways away. And the father doesn't look at him, doesn't welcome him by waving him. He runs out and he embraces him, pig slop and all. And although I understand that that kind of love is a Herculean task, and it's a reason it's a parable, because it's probably not totally real, Jesus told that parable to express something that I think all of us should be living, and that's this idea of love. That when we talk to people in our community about school, when we talk to people in our community about things that are going on, we share it with love. And I know that's not easy. I get it. I'm not perfect. But I think we can all do a little bit better. And I'll be the first to say that there are times when I don't like Roswell. I love Roswell, but there are times I don't like it. But you know what? I can try a little harder to love all the people. And I will. And my challenge is that all of us would do a little bit better at that. So with that, I'll be done, and I will let Mr. Sanchez go.
So I want to second what Alan said. I want to thank everybody that came out tonight. I know sometimes getting in front of that mic, it's hard. Saw a lot of hands shaking. It takes a lot of heart to do that. So I really appreciate everybody coming up and expressing your voices. And please understand that we do listen to you. We do. Also want to apologize because I think I've gotten, I don't know how many hundreds of phone calls. I haven't got back to everybody, so if you're watching, I'm sorry, but I'm still trying to get back to everybody. But again, everybody that made that phone call or sent an email, thank you for expressing your voice. So I'm going to switch gears just for a second. I'm going to come back to this. So last board meeting, we had our conversations regarding teacher salaries, and basically salaries for everybody, right, from administration on down. And I think we had the talk about, you know, what are we looking at for teachers, what are we looking at for administrators, I mean everybody in the district. So one thing came to mind, and I think you guys were involved when we started poking this around last go around, is I think what kind of came out of that conversation, and where I hope I wasn't pointing this direction, is that everybody needs to become an administrator eventually. Because that's not the case for everybody. Ultimately, yes, you would want somebody, if you know they've been in the classroom for X amount of years and they've been a principal, yes, it'd be great for them to lead a resource, to lead a division, so then they can help teachers, they can help people in the classroom. But sometimes teachers don't want to do that. Sometimes they want to stick in the classroom. And that's okay. I live with one. And one that's actually going to get her master's now too, but she's like, I love the classroom. I want to stay in the classroom. I don't want to be a principal. I'm like, you should be a principal. You should be this. You should be that. I'm the guy pushing her. But she's like, no, I want to stay in the classroom. I'm happy in the classroom. And maybe one of these days she'll be ready to move on and be, you know, principal or something like that. But she loves the classroom. She loves the kids. So I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about other educators in the district, about who falls into that criteria and what are we doing for those teachers to make sure we retain them. Not trying to push them in administrative jobs, but what are we doing to keep those veteran teachers that have been in the district for a long time, have years and years and years of knowledge and experience. What are we doing for those teachers to keep them teachers, or keep those teachers? Because I think what we're seeing when we look at the data, and they show us that we've seen the data before that was presented to the district, is we're kind of losing these teachers, give or take about 15 years is about the average. For some reason, about 15 years, teachers say, all right, I'm done. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to do something else, or I move to another district or something else. So we kind of kicked around, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, coming up with I think it was called a master teacher, to where there's an individual in the class or in a building that would be what you would call a master teacher, where it's based on their evaluations that they have, it's based on their tenure, based on what the principal thinks of those individuals, because principals know the leaders in their schools, right? They know their go-tos for whatever it might be. Who is that go-to in that school when it comes to anything under the sun? What are we doing to show that teacher that we, or that individual, that we appreciate them? So a seed I want to plant with you guys is let's look into something like that. And I don't know if it's something that can be based on salary, that we can designate master teachers to where we have those dedicated individuals in those buildings to where we show we appreciate them. I don't know if it's we can talk about bonuses for those individuals or whatever it might be, but I think we need to recognize those individuals that have that massive amount of education behind them, but they love being in the classroom every day. And how do we keep them there, and how do we tell them that we appreciate them and we want them to stay there? You don't have to become a principal, you don't have to become a director, you don't have to become an assistant superintendent. So can we have that conversation about what we can do for these teachers that have that tenure, so we hold on to them? So back to the business of what we're talking about today. So guys, it's hard. It is. And I'm going to be the first to tell you that it's hard when changes are made. I've gotten phone calls that are, yes, this is the greatest thing, we've needed this forever, and let's do it. And then there's phone calls about, what are we doing here, and why? So we get it from both ends. And what we try to have to do, guys, is put that together to show we're trying to do something good for this community. And I don't know if this is the right answer. I don't know if the timing was right, but at the end of the day, guys, when we brought on a superintendent, we had a problem. We had issues in this district. We saw our education going down. We saw our graduation rates dropping. And it was, what do we do for these kids? What do we do to make sure that we have at least 90% of these kids graduate, wave to mom and dad at the end of the year? What do we do? And there was no answer for it. I mean, there's no magic wand, guys. I'm sorry, there's not. It's education. There's 10,000 kids. There's no right answer. So what I did is, going back to my beautiful wife, and I'm sorry, but I just adore her because she's an educator, and I don't know how she does it. And you think board member's hard? Try being in the classroom with fourth graders. So she's going through a master's program, and she's given books, right? So it's teaching her how to become a leader. There's a book called Smart Leaders and Smarter Teams. So let me read into that. Let me see, what are they talking about? What does that mean? There's another book called Leading for Equity, and it's talking about equity amongst students. And this one kind of stuck with me a little bit because I started reading into this and I started getting red flags, and I started saying, hey, there's some good and some bad in here. But this book is called Leading for Equality, and it was a case study for Montgomery County and Maryland public schools. I think they're kind of in the same situation we're in now, where we've got concerns, and what do we do? What do we do to fix it? We know we can't do it tomorrow, we can't wave the magic wand, but how do we get there? So there's one chapter called Designing New Systems and Structure for Change. And guys, I was reading into this, and I could probably quote from the book, or if you could, you can read this book if you want to, check it out, pull it up online. But there was some things in here. And it was talking about that we need to break the link between race, ethnicity, academic outcomes by setting a common aggressive standard and giving resources and instructions so that all students can reach them. So we've got to break the link between race and ethnicity, and if I'm from the north side or if I'm from the south side or the east side. I'm a south sider. I grew up in Roswell my whole life. Down in farm country, East Grand Plains, that's where I'm from. I went to East Grand Plains. I was a little country boy. That didn't deter me from doing anything, and I was never taught that. One thing that kind of hit me was there has to be change. But what does that change mean? Hard decisions had to be made earlier. I don't know if I would have got phone calls on, we're going to have more of the same. What does that mean? Or now we're changing things and we're getting phone calls back on that, guys. So one thing that came to this was that was written in here is, sometime a change in any part of the system ripples through the system as a whole, affecting each part differently for better or for worse. So sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's good, sometimes you have the good, bad, and the ugly with it. Also, resources have to be, at times, reorganized to provide maximum support for teaching and learning. This is what they're teaching our administrators, is that sometimes you've got to make those hard calls. I'm not saying that what happened or what's happening now is exactly right, but what I'm seeing here is that there are some changes, and that it's written in this book that this happened in Maryland. And if you go through this, it was actually a good thing for them. And yes, it was rough. It was rough. And people on the board that were out there got hung out to dry. I can tell you that. But guys, I'm not here to take sides on anything. What I am here for is for these kids in this district. What I am here for is when I also get phone calls about 200 plus kids that didn't graduate from certain high schools. Why didn't my kid? Why didn't he have the same opportunity? Why? What about the 40% that didn't? What about them? What about them? What do we do? So this is what I want to ask the community. I know everybody has concerns and everybody's up in arms right now. But what I want to ask the community is, what can you do, or how can you help us as a board and as a team with those 40% of those kids that didn't cross that line? What do we do? Is it remove a leader? Is it put the leader back? Is it do something with educators? Is it provide support? Is it what? We need that information from you. Because I think we're trying, but we're hoping we're making the right decisions here. Please understand that it is in the best interest of these kids, period. That's why I'm here. If 90% of those kids aren't crossing at the end of the year, I'm failing as a board member because I'm not giving enough support to somebody or giving ideas to help them get there. And I can't do it without you guys. I'm a one-man show with one head, but if I get 50 and say, hey, Ruben, what about this? What about that? Guess who gets that information? We can feed that right to the superintendent, and then she can take that and say, this is a great idea, or we've already done that, or we'll try something else. But we need your help. When she came on, she had marching orders. And it was, we need almost, I think if Mona Kirk, 100% of, we need a qualified teacher, a highly qualified teacher in every single classroom. And I think we told you we wanted 90% graduation rate, if not higher. Because we saw the slump going down. We're not doing our jobs if that's the case. What about those kids that didn't? That's what I'm standing up for. So please, feel free. My phone's here. It's on the website. Call me and give me your ideas. Call me and give me. That's why I'm here. That's why I represent you. Give me these ideas. Thank you.
Dr. Pittman.
Well, it's me, folks. I'm very proud of you all for coming. I wish everybody that had been here tonight had stayed. I don't think people understand about board work. And I appreciate it when people pour out their heart to us, because if you all don't tell us what you're thinking and how you're feeling, how are we to know? So I appreciate you coming. I want to say, before I even get started, this has nothing to do with anything, but I happen to be a coyote. I grew up in this town. I graduated from Roswell High School. I can still sing the alma mater and the fight song, both. Okay. But I want to start out by reminding you of parameters of board work under New Mexico law. The last few weeks, particularly, well, I guess 3 or 4, I have had hundreds of phone calls, text messages, Facebook messages, and emails. They want me to fix stuff. Here's what a board can do. We make decisions about property, policy, finances, and a few other specific things. We hire and evaluate the superintendent. In case of a vacancy on the board, we appoint someone to take that seat until the next election. We're not to meddle in the day-to-day operations of the district. That is why when people call me, whether it's a parent concerned about their child or an employee upset about something that's going on in their school, in their district, in the world, whatever. I tell them to go through the process from your immediate supervisor on up. Classroom teacher, principal. But don't, you know, the best way to solve problems is at the lowest level. Let's don't make a big problem when there isn't a big problem. There's some other things about boards, and that's not all. If other people want to add, they can when I'm done. Oh, by the way, Mr. Getty, I was a college professor for 25 years. We have something called a 50-minute hour, and you know, I'm not going to talk that long. I promise.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk that. A quorum of board members, 3 or more, are not allowed to discuss any issue except during a publicly announced board meeting. That's why you're never going to see us having a glass of wine over at the lounge. We can't get together 2 at a time. This part that we're in now of the board meeting is set aside specifically so we can talk things over, because we don't get to talk things over. Other than this reminder, I have some specific things to say tonight. I want to start with the story. I taught elementary gifted for several years. One of my second grade students loved to come to my class, which met all day on Mondays. However, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, she had a tummy ache, a headache, tears in her eyes, etc., in an attempt to avoid going to her regular class. So her parents were alarmed. They took her to the doctor. Nothing was found to be wrong with her. Her parents went to the principal, and the principal came to me as her special education teacher and said, "What is going on? I want you to go to the classroom where she is 4 days and see if you can figure it out." So I went to the second grade classroom to observe. The teacher had math problems on the chalkboard. They were green back then, by the way. And they had dusty chalk. You all remember that? Some of you are old enough. Students were called up one by one to work a problem. So they came and went. Then a little fellow went to the board, and he was obviously nervous and unsure. He could not work the problem. Now I'm going to cry. With tears streaming down his cheeks, he went to the teacher and stuck out a hand, palm up. The teacher smacked the outstretched palm with the ruler. The students all cringed. My student was never struck, but she was traumatized. This teacher was a bully. Her classroom climate was based on fear and threats. We can all agree that children can't work and learn in that kind of environment. Teachers can't work in such a negative environment either. I got your letters, teachers. I got your phone calls. I know of fear when I see it, and teachers should be joyous. Being a teacher is hard, but it's joyful work as we see children succeed. It's worth the efforts we make. Roswell is a small town. Our ISD is the largest employer. What affects our people affects our community. I heard through the grapevine, actually several grapevines, and someone said it tonight, that a teacher was called by someone in the district office and told not to contact board members, and they felt threatened by that. Teachers are our constituents. You did not give up your civil rights when you take a job with our ISD. That's School Law 101. There are policies teachers and other employees need to follow, and professionalism you need to observe. But you can always call a board member. Our job is to make this the best school district in which to learn and work. I'm not pleased that our district seems to be upside down to many of you. We should be a team. School faculties and staffs working with our district office personnel, and our district office personnel should be working with our site-based people. This cannot be an adversarial relationship if we are to provide the best education possible for our students. Here are my priorities. Students first. Teachers and building administrators second. District office is to provide resources and support so that teachers and principals can plan programs that enable all children to learn. We need to plan from the bottom up, not top down. I think I've said that before. Change can be good, but unnecessary change or too much change at one time can be disruptive to parents, teachers, and students. Our ISD is not a chessboard. Teachers and building administrators are not pawns. Teachers and building administrators are not interchangeable pieces in a board game. Teachers and administrators are professionals who need to be engaged and empowered. They are the people on the field. They carry the ball. Teachers are professionals. They know their students. Kids come first. Site-based personnel are second because they're the ones who touch kids' lives. Teachers are the ones who make a difference. Great leadership is not about control. I bet you read this, Mr. Sanchez. It's about empowering people. Leadership is not a position or a title. It is action and example. Leadership is trust. A person who holds a titled position is not a leader unless the people he or she supervises trust that person. Teachers and professionals are educated, and teachers and principals are educated and smart professionals. Steve Jobs said, "It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and then tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do." Power versus empowerment. If we as a district want happy employees, if we want our students to reach their highest potential, we need to select the right people, provide them with the proper training, tools, and support, and then give them room to get the job done. Daniel Goleman, developer of the concept of social emotional intelligence, is quoted in a paper entitled, "What Teachers Want in Their Leaders: Voices from the Field." Here is what was said here. Teachers want leaders who are trustworthy, empathetic, and connected. Teachers say such leaders make teachers feel calm, appreciated, and inspired. Teachers and administrators want respect. When certain administrators or teachers are pointed out as the best or other pet names, everybody is taken aback. It's like getting punched in the stomach. "Oh, my name wasn't called. Oh my goodness, I'm not one of those. Oh, maybe I'm going to lose my job." All of our teachers and principals are important. Did you hear me? Did you hear that? All of our teachers and principals are important. We need to be very careful what we say because we have to be careful of the impact it has on the people that we most want to help them do a good job. Some things that happened in the past month are not productive for our district. Students need a positive environment in which to learn. And employees, all employees, need a positive environment in which to work. As a member of your school board, I will do what I can to make sure we have a positive environment throughout our district for all students and all employees. Thank you.
Mona, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm gonna put the mic up. Do you want to talk?
Yes,
Yes? Okay,
yes, I do.
the mic is on you. Don't sneeze.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to all those who came to the board meeting. It's great to see so many people at the board meeting. I'm sure there were, I can't see, but I'm sure there were a lot of people expressing their concerns and concerned about the issues at hand. I want to thank them for coming and exercising their voice. I appreciate them coming forward and let their voices be heard. I was unable to attend the meeting in person, so I logged on to the district website to view on YouTube while attending by phone. But unfortunately, it has only been streaming for the last 75 minutes. So the public comment was not captured at all. My hope is that the public comment time will be captured and be able to be viewed. I want to thank all those who contacted me by phone, email, stopping me in the grocery store, coming to my door, and visiting with me at home. I want to thank them for voicing their concerns due to the recent changes. And I want each and every one to know I listened to them and I took their comments to heart. I have RISD at the best interest. RISD is my life. It has been my life for the past 99% of my life. My tenure speaks for itself in RISD. I was raised in Roswell, attended Brindle Elementary, Brindle Middle School, Goddard, and I taught at Mountain View, assistant principal at Mesa. So my whole life has been RISD. So I want each and every one to know that I listen to what you're saying, and I take it to heart. I also want to say thank you to Dr. McElroy for reinstating the end of the year luncheon and golf tournament. I tell you, I have gotten so many comments about that, so I'm grateful that she took that on and was able to make that happen. I'm so happy it was a great success, and congratulations for your win.
Oh, well, thank you.
I am very disappointed, though, that it was scheduled during my absence, so I was unable to enjoy the fruit of my labor, because I am a golfer also, and I love to play. So hopefully next year I will be able to play in the golf tournament. That's all I have. I won't take up much more time. But again, YouTube was not up and running. I hope we can get that captured.
Yeah,
That's all I have. Thank you.
We'll look into that. Thank you, Mona.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Edwards.
Okay, well, I've listened to everybody speak here on this stage tonight, and I heard the folks that were out there. And I feel your pain, because the same pain that you feel, I feel it right now. I've gotten questioned, James, when did you know about it? I said, hey, I had no clue. I found out the same way you did. But yet I was elected to represent you folks in my district. I had no clue. My question is, why was I left out of the team? And that bugs me. Because if it can be done to me, it can be done to anybody else that comes and sits up here. And if anybody knows me, and there's some people out here that know me, and they're on my board, when I get pissed off, I get pissed off. And you know what? There's a sense of fear, retaliation, discrimination, hell, I can go on, I can go all day. And it bugs me because, you know, when I got elected and when I ran for a purpose. I ran because I saw some things I didn't like. I said, hey, it's easy for me to talk about it, but if I don't stand up and run, I'm just like everybody else. I'm gonna be out there talking about the issues and not doing a doggone thing about it. And I thought I could make a change. And I talked to Alan about this. I said, you know, when we ran for a change because I didn't like what I was seeing. You know, there's an old saying, if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes in the future. And I think we're going down that road without even realizing it. Am I upset about a lot of the changes? Oh, yes, I am. I'm upset about a lot of the changes because I've been sitting here, and normally I don't keep my mouth quiet, as some of these people out here know me. I don't keep my mouth quiet. I usually let people know when I'm frustrated. And I'm getting pretty frustrated right now because I see what a lot of these folks talked about. I see it, but I didn't say anything. Because I said, you know what? I'm gonna look at the work that's being put in. I didn't agree with those changes with the principals. Had no clue that they were going on. I found out the same time as everybody else. But yet I also was told that other members of the board knew about it. I guess I'm not part of the team. And I know that I didn't exactly vote for you when they appointed you. And maybe that's part of the retaliation. But I don't care. Because I'm going to represent my district, and I'm going to represent the people that live in my district. And I represent everybody in Roswell. There's some people out here that I've bumped heads with. They're on my board. They're sitting out here right now. They didn't leave. But I'll tell you right now, I have the utmost respect for them, and I believe they have the utmost respect for me because they keep naming me president of our Roswell Youth Football League. These people, they're not going to go away. The ones that were here earlier, they're not going to go away. They're not going to go away. You know, and when I look at the changes that were made at Roswell High, there's a vacuum. And what happens when you have a vacuum in your leadership? Who's leading the troops now? Nobody knows. Nobody has a clue. You've got your soldiers still in the schools. You've got your soldiers in the school. I see some of them here. But we need to take back what we've had. Our district is not the worst district. It wasn't the worst district 10 years ago. We have problems just like anybody else. But when you come in and and I'm not pointing fingers at you, but you're the leader. When you come in and you start boom, 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 without consulting with the board, there are problems. I wasn't informed. I had no clue of what was going on. You had no clue?
I didn't either. I heard about it after the fact.
Right.
And that's okay.
No, but it's not okay. Because we talk about equality and equity. That's not equality and equity. Let everybody know. Transparency. We talk about transparency. A lie is transparent. It's the same as the truth. You know, and I'm going to tell you, I know some of these folks that spoke tonight. I know some of them that are still here. They're not going to go away. And it's not a Reuben problem. It's not a black, white, Hispanic problem. This could happen to anybody that's sitting out here in this group right now. And you won't like it. You wouldn't like it. I know I didn't like it. And it wasn't all about Reuben. Heck, I was concerned with the vacuum we left in the elementary schools, and a lot of elementary people knew about it. I've got letters. People have went to my house and posted letters on my door. People have called me on the phone. They've even went to my office. So therefore, I know it's a concern. There's an election coming up. People need to get out and do their due diligence and run. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and I've already told people, I'm not here 2 years from now. I'm not here. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't have any kids in the school districts. I don't have any family that work in the district, so they can't do anything to me. And that's what I've been hearing, is that if a person speaks up, they're liable to be fired or be removed or demoted. I don't agree with that. You talk about love? That's not love. That ain't love. That's not love, man. I'm sorry. That's not love. You know, and I'm gonna tell you. What'd you say? Lip service. We have a saying over in our community. Don't talk out the side of your neck. Speak to the person through your mouth. You know, I'm not mad. Far from that. I'm concerned because I got on this board. You ran for the same reason I ran. Hey, we replaced one superintendent. He left. No names are mentioned. He left. We got another one. Yes, you were tasked with coming into our district to unite, not to divide. And I'm going to put that out there. And I hear division. I heard you talk about baseball and football. Kids don't know anything about division. And a lot of grown people don't know anything about division. The only thing that divides our community, you got 2nd Street goes north and south, and people tend to forget. No, it goes east and west, and people tend to forget that Main Street also separates us. But we put our differences aside and we work together. Hey, I got one of my harshest critics sitting right there looking at me right now. And he knows who I'm talking about. We've clashed heads, we've bumped heads. Am I right, Mo? But guess what? He's one of my best leaders on my board. Even he disagrees with me, I listen to my board. I don't get my way with everything. And that's what we need to teach people. You're not always going to get your way. It goes both ways. We've got administration and we've got teachers and support staff in the schools. But we need to get back to being united, not divided. And that's one thing that I firmly believe in. And I'm not up here for the applause or anything. I'm going to speak from the hip. I don't have anything written down, but it just frustrates me that I thought we were ending the year on a good note. Heck, we could even get through graduation without getting all of the calls and all of the did you know this, did you know that, did you know this? No, but it would have been nice. I am a school board member. I am one of the 5 families, as the mafia says. I'm one of the 5 families that I felt like I was excluded. I don't know if you knew, but I was under the impression that a lot of people knew. So it's coming to light. We got good people. One of the things you better start worrying about is this was a destination district. That's what I heard in the past. Hey, if we keep going down the road we're going, this is not going to be a destination district, because guess what? One person talks to another person, he talks to 10 other people, and guess what? It gets out there, you ain't going to have any teachers here. You're not going to have teachers, and you're not going to have support staff. But we're going to have a bunch of administrators. And I hope they're ready to go. I hope they're ready to go get in the classroom, because that's what we're going to come to. I don't have any problems. You know, I think I've treated everybody with respect, with dignity, and if I haven't, I'll apologize, because I'm a man. I can apologize, and I have done that a few times. But we need to get our stuff together, and it starts up here with us. We are the voice of our districts and of our community. I don't just represent Chihuahuita or the East Side. I represent everybody, and I will continue to do that. And I do listen. And that's pretty much all I have to say in a nutshell. Thank you.
All right, and with that, this is the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second? You want a second, Ms. Kirk?
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second made by Ms. Kirk. Roll call, please.
Alan Getty,
Yes?
Ruben Sanchez,
Yes.
Brenda Kelly Gibbon,
Yes.
Motor Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards.
Yes.
And that is it.